in the last 10 years, if you were to take a wild guess, let's play a little game. I love guessing games with numbers. If you were to take a wild guess, approximately how many structures do you think have burned down in the last 10 years? Structures, that's commercial and that's residential structures from wildfires alone in the last decade. In California, they're guessing somewhere around 63,000 structures. Okay, so let's just take a little baseline here while we talk about codes and safety and insurance and all this stuff.
Hello everyone, Rick Albert here with another episode of the Key to the City of Angels. I'm super excited to have Jim Sprouse of Ember Pro here with us. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, Rick. Thanks for having me, and happy Thanksgiving. I'm not quite sure when this airs, but happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. We're the day before, so we're Wednesday. Hope everyone has a blessed day and just filled with fun memories and good times and safe travels.
For sure. It's actually interesting. I've talked to a lot of people, and everyone I've talked to is actually having a low-key Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah. I'm actually in San Diego, and I'll be coming up there. So I think I'll be okay with traffic tomorrow morning. My daughter and I are going to cruise up to Valencia area, Stevenson's Ranch.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So why don't we jump into it? You do basically fire hardening, which is always becoming a big issue because we had the Palisades fires, the Eden fires. Talk a little bit about, I guess, what's been going on behind the scenes with all that. Like what's been pushing with assembly bills, things like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot, right? There's a lot. It's confusing. It's clear as mud. The state and the infinite wisdom that we have in government, we like to layer things over and we create an AB or an SB and then it's cleaned up. Like 3074, which we'll talk about, was cleaned up by 111 and made it permanent. We had a building code 7A that turned into See What We See, and it's crazy. So I'll spend time today breaking it down and making it very simple and letting the audience know what really they need to look at and what they really do need to do to mitigate their home. Not just for the compliance side of it. That's nuts. That's nothing. Nuts is not the right word. That's nothing. I was using another expression there, but I won't. It's the big deal. Is the insurance and saving your home. That's the big deal. So the compliance side I look at is, let's talk about compliance because it is important. But it's really important to abide by it for the safety of the home. And when you break it down, and let me explain why too. If you look at, I'll preface this a little bit, Rick. And we can talk about insurance too. I know you had Bob Feldman on. He's a great guy. Robert Feldman's awesome with WOWs. And he broke down a lot. We work a lot with them and some other MGAs. And people want to bash on insurance and there's money talks a lot. But before we go into the codes and some of that, let's look at the history. In the last 10 years, if you were to take a wild guess, let's play a little game. I love guessing games with numbers. If you were to take a wild guess, approximately how many structures do you think have burned down in the last 10 years? Structures, that's commercial and that's residential structures from wildfires alone in the last decade. In California.
We lost tens of thousands of homes. Right, we have Paradise. This year. Like Eden by
2018 was, put it this way, 2018 was 24,000 homes in 2018. That was a campfire. We've lost 17 this year, plus that's just up where you guys are.
And then we had...
Plus the other 8 years.
So...
Plus the other 8 years.
100,000?
A little bit less than that. They're guessing somewhere around 63,000 structures. Okay, so let's just take a little baseline here while we talk about codes and safety and insurance and all this stuff. So let's talk about what that means financially, right? If we look at those statistics, and again, this is where it dovetails into the insurance side a little bit, but let's just talk about the cost of that. There's estimates all over the place when Palisades and Yeaton was going and afterwards. And I just take the LA Times. There's a lot of resources out there to look at, 200 to 250 billion. And that's all in. And people don't realize that smoke damage is a huge loss. That's a lot of money. That's a huge amount of money. So before that, I'll just end with one more stat. Before that, in the last 10 years, the insurers, all the insurers, admitted and not admitted insurers in California, have lost on their net 0.6% net loss on insuring structures in California. And that's 0.6 of what, trillions of dollars of premium, right? So 0.6 is billions and tens of billions of dollars. We have to look at it as a society and as a community and as citizens of California going, what are we doing? Why are we expecting insurers who are for-profit companies to come in and insure us if we have all these losses and the environmental factors are probably getting worse, whether you believe in global warming or not, trends, the billion, it is what it is. Here's another horrific, and you probably talked about, did you talk about replacement costs when a couple of your guests, or I don't know if other people besides Robert?
I'm actually working on. I'm actually working on that as an upcoming episode.
Are
My understanding, it's roughly $300 to $400 a square foot, but I could also argue that in the Palisades it might be more because if you're hillside, higher end finishes, whatever.
You're sitting down, you might fall off your chair. There are reports in Palisades it's over 1,200 per square foot. I've heard 1,500.
Interesting. Look, a caisson alone can be tens of thousands of dollars if you have a hillside home. Why not?
Yeah. I was just watching something. I was watching a podcast. I think it was Adam Carolla or someone that was going through, and they were talking about the tradespeople. Are there enough tradespeople to go through? There are. There's some other. The people are coming in. There, like people from Arizona. A lot of people are coming out to support.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, but there's just it's just getting very expensive. So when you look at insurance now, the new policies, and people are freaked out about the cost of the policies. I'm like, look, you got to understand. You used to be rated at 300 or 400. Now the insurance companies are trying to. Your replacement's going to be 4,000 square foot home, 5,000 square foot house, $2.2 million, like crazy. Yeah. So the way out is through. Let me just see. I had a couple notes I want to talk about. That's like just people that are watching understand the climate that we're in, understand where we're at, what we're trying to get out of. We have to understand what we're getting out of. I'm going to talk at CAR in January in Monterey, I think it's at. And they're talking about home hardening, defense, and everything. And a lot of it is going to be not just the home hardening, which we can get into, which is what Ember Pro does, but it's also about the defensible space. So do you want me to jump into the two things that we can? Yeah. So people really need to understand if you're going to be looking at your home, your structure, or commercial building. I always joke that wildfires don't discriminate. They don't care what kind of building you are. It's going to take you. Whether you're a garden level, a garden style multifamily with 50 units or a big 10,000 square foot home, your personal home, doesn't matter. You know, your landscape, you're not going to change. You're not going to change the environment. You're not going to change where you decide to buy your house. Your hill's your hill. Your topography is your topography. Wind currents are wind currents. These are all factors in fire scores. So if you happen to buy your home in a bad fire area and you're having a really hard time, you might have some challenges, even with proper mitigation, getting insured because you're just in a bad area. You're just in a bad area. Sorry, there was wind currents. There's history, and the history will determine a lot, right? You learn from history, but people have also. Go ahead.
But what I'm saying is, for example, if I buy in Malibu and I know the house next door was burned down, if you're insurance, you're like, this is not a hypothetical. So I had a client buy in Simi Valley years ago. He had to get fire insurance. He goes to the fire department and says, when was the last time there was a fire up here? He's never in his career, so at least 20 years. But you still require fire insurance.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. A little side note is it was actually my fiance. We live in San Diego. We live in a certain school district. My daughter's graduating. We're moving to the country, Fallbrook up there, horse country. All right, so beautiful area. And it hit me. And my fiance said it was probably about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. She said, I feel like we can move up here now. I'm like, wait a second. What do you mean? She's like, you started Ember Pro, and we have solutions. You created a solution where I feel safe moving to this area, knowing it's an extremely high fire prone area. But Rick, come on, what's not? Like people complain about these fire zone maps. I'm like, okay, does it make sense to have a straight line of red on a fire zone? Does that even make sense at all? You go from high fire zone to on the other side of the street, you're not. Like, to me, there's just
with one street, like one ember just hopping over and it's done.
Embers only go where it's like a non-high or a high fire zone. Like they avoid. No, I look at everything's a fire zone and everything's fire season because it's January fire season. It's biggest loss this year. Is that traditional fire season? No, we think it's gonna be raining. We're in La Nina right now. It hasn't been too dry down here because we got a bunch of rain last week, but I would expect we might have a month with no precipitation. What's that going to do at this time of the year? Anyway, going back to the two things that we were talking about, it's defensible space and hardening of the home. And there are, going back to those iterations of laws, AB 3074 is what we'll talk about first. Okay. And this is really important because I think it was established 2021 and it hasn't really been enforced. At the same time, especially in your real estate profession, you have AB 38, right? AB 38 is a disclosure form that you fill out. Fire marshal goes and you have to disclose. They have to be fixed in a certain amount of time. It's kind of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
It's like and I don't mean anything negative, but I've been with local fire, obviously by nature of my business, the fire chiefs and captains and CAL FIRE. We talk all the time and I go to their presentations and I listen and I don't think AB 38 is going to save any homes when it's signed off saying you're good. I just don't. It's not.
Yeah, it's fair. Look, one of the challenges that I'm seeing, and I've actually updated my offers, is oftentimes when it comes to defensible space, like disclosure, and then saying, okay, who's going to do that inspection with the county? But that information doesn't come out till once we're under contract. And usually the seller punts it on to the buyer. And I'm like, for example, we just bought a property and it's in a high fire zone. And like I already told my wife, I was like, look, this is going to happen. They're going to kick it onto us and we'll just take care of it. But for a lot of buyers, I'm like, that's a dick move. So we actually updated our offers to be like, up front, hey, seller, you're actually going to handle this.
Yeah. And that's the right way to do it. And so it's in handling it, it's more, and let me ask you this, is it more of a formality or is it more of a way to mitigate for potential loss? I know it's both, but in your mind, is it not a transactional formality like you're signing off on all the other forms?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So the part that people don't get is the bigger the contracts, the more disclosures you have, the less you're going to read and you're not going to care.
So it's a thing. It's a thing I have to do versus I am going to read AB 3074, which I can go to our website. We have all kinds of blogs on this. And I'm going to go out to my house. I'm going to walk out of my house and I'm going to start working on it. Mm-hmm. This is what we need to do. The only way to bring back a competitive insurance market is through everybody mitigating their home. You do not get competition. I started our session out by giving you some statistics, and I'll go back on them. Insurers will not come in until we start doing our part. AB 3074 is being enforced. It's being finalized and codified this month, and it's going to be enforced next year. Okay, so this is the first time we're actually going to get enforcement.
So question, if one house is fire hardened, but the 3 houses around you aren't, does it actually do anything? The fire hardening?
Yes, it does. Okay. It does. And that's a hazard like anything else, right? It's like that other house is like having a huge dead conifer on your next door. It's bad. And especially what's the proximity? There's so many factors to this. So when I go to all the meetings and I listen to the public, and people are always, especially people who go to these meetings, are like, oh, I'm in great shape. Of course you are. You're at this meeting.
You wouldn't be at the meeting otherwise.
It's the other 98% of the neighbors. They're like, but what about my neighbors? Okay, so here, I actually wrote these down. I'm just going to look over here. The consequences of noncompliance for AB 3074. They have never been more than a slap on the wrist. Maybe a fire guy has come over and said, your neighbors complained to me 10 times. You've got a stack of wood, a dead conifer, God knows what else in this backyard. Your trees are touching everything. They're coming over the fence. You've got to do something about it. Maybe that's happened in the past. But here's what I was actually, because I knew that we were going to talk about this a little bit, I was wondering if there was going to be like any kind of criminality to this. Yeah. So the first thing is, okay, so you're going to lose your home potentially. Let's just start with that. Everything I'm going to point to is there's money, there's insurance, there's neighbors. Okay, our job is to protect our home. So number one thing is if you don't comply, much higher risk, 75% higher risk of losing your house in a wildfire. Okay, start with that. Also couple that with you're not going to get insurance companies. If you don't start clearing AB, so let me just explain exactly. AB 3074 is the ember resistant zone, which is also known as zone 0. Zone 0 is from your structure to 5 feet out. So AB 34 created and establishes this law so that everybody that owns a home or renting a home, and then the owner of the home for the tenant, is responsible for clearing zone 0. Why zone 0 is incredibly important because embers create 90% of the fires. Okay. So I'm going to cap off on what the consequences if you do not do the things. We'll talk about some of the things you have to do. Is $100 to $500, and then loss of insurance, and then there could be negligence in a claim. You are breaking a law by not abiding. And if you are one of those 3 contributors as a neighbor and you didn't follow the law and they can somehow prove that the fire radiation radiative heat or something caused your house to burn down, there could be a negligence claim on that. That is what I was looking for. Is there any teeth to this other than $100, $500? Right. 5 times beating on your door. Rick, clean your lot. Yeah. No. How about this? I told you no the other 4 times. Go ahead and sign me. People are like that. It's terrible. But the negligence in the lawsuit, I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe that will actually wake people up a little bit. Don't know. Yeah. We'll see. There are some consequences.
Yeah, it always goes back to people have this notion that it's not going to happen to them
Yeah.
until it
Not me.
does. This will never happen to me.
That
What are
guy.
the odds? Yeah, exactly. That guy over there, that guy's the one screwing it up for the rest of us.
But I always go back to it's about saving your home. Like we build these assets, we have these assets because if you lose it, you're going to have deductibles. If you're unfair, you're probably underinsured in a lot of instances.
Yeah. That's been a big issue.
Yeah, replacement, displacement costs. What do you think the average person that was living in Palisades is paying in replacement and displacement costs right now? I heard there's some building.
There's some building happening, but the problem is the length of time.
2 years, 3 years?
Yeah. It was funny because the city never asked for my opinion because they didn't need to reach out to me. But what they should have done, because there's a lot of new construction in Palisades. Over the last 5-10 years, a lot of new construction, like tear downs, rebuilds.
Yeah.
Those people should have been in an express lane with the city.
Yep.
That's what they should have done. And they just say, look, just tweak the plans a little bit and we're going to pass it to get those built quickly versus these other ones that might have been built in the 20s or whatever. Yeah, those are more complicated. But yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to take we're already coming up to the 1 year anniversary. So permits are probably finally getting approved. Some's being built, but in general, I think it's a 2 to 3 year process even from here.
So now you're still paying the mortgages and everything. There's been moratoriums and some help, but so just again, going back to AB 3074 is just to keep your home so you're not replacement displacement costs. It's a huge factor. By the way, incidentally, I had heard, I don't know, I live in San Diego. We go up there all the time on business. We do projects in LA and Calabasas where you're at and Malibu and Brentwood. And actually, so part of my passion, I'll just take a quick, I used to live in Palisades. I used to live in Temescal Canyon in the state park. So I've been accused of being passionate about what I do. My passion is because I have an environmental science degree and background from back east. And I get this, Rick, my job title was naturalist. I was a naturalist for the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority out there. Oh, wow. And I would joke, I tell people, like, I wear clothing. The naturalist is it's an educator. I'm an educator, okay? I teach kids, so of course we're clothed. But no, we had a contract with LA Unified, and I lived in that park. And if you look at where the fires came into the east, it stopped right there, and they were probably posting right there. Not only that, but my son was born in the hospital in Paradise that's no longer there. So we have some history. We have some history in the area, experience in being around fires, and it's crazy, yeah. Anyway, so going back to AB 3074 and defensible space and saving homes, let's just get into the brass tacks of it, right? It's pretty simple. You have to clear 5 feet. It's not final, but in that 5 feet, that means non-combustion. Number one is nothing within 5 feet of the house. Nothing except for potted plants 18 inches. No higher than potted plants at 18 inches. That's option one. They feel like that's probably the option that the council and board and committees are going to go for. 2 is nothing but 4 inches of vegetation. So they said, okay, not potted. You can have some vegetation on the ground popping through your lava rock.
4 inches high.
4 inches is the max. 3 is allow grass and native plants and potted. They don't feel that's going to be allowed at all. They don't think that's going to be an option. They don't want to have planted material and vegetation there. And then the last one is allow, which I didn't understand this, allow grass and native plants, but not allow potted. I was like, okay, we'll just put that one to the side. So what they're thinking is probably potted plants, maybe 4-inch vegetative, and very obviously very specific species of plants.
Interesting.
So
would local nurseries know this? If they're in a high fire zone, they would be like, hey, these are the approved plants?
Yeah.
Because the average consumer's not going to know that.
Go to our website. I've got a comprehensive guide that lists all the native plants. Native plants are great too. Eucalyptus. So we do a lot of work in Rancho Santa Fe. Anyone that knows Rancho Santa Fe in San Diego is where all the money is. Dude, drive through Rancho Santa Fe. All this eucalyptus tree. It's the biggest ticking time bomb. And everyone's canceled on insurance. Everyone knows it that lives there. It's nuts. They've got eucalyptus and Italian cypress, which is put your hand inside of an Italian cypress tree and pull it out, and you have a dead bird's nest. And it's just nothing but flammable candlesticks. There's some crazy, but going back to the lists, go to our guide. You can look through it. There's a lot of, and look, I see some beautiful hardscapes. I was at a house yesterday. We were doing an on-site. It was probably a $15 million house, and they had hardscape that you could barely tell. And then it's not like they put a ton of money into it. It just looked so good. It looked so good. So even if you have the high-end tastes, you still can make it look great. I actually bought the URL. What was it? Oh, Zone Zero Landscaping. I just think it's going to be I think a lot of people are going to be figuring out their Zone Zero and try to figure out that landscape.
Yeah.
It's going to be trying to find people to actually perform the work might be tough, especially depending on how they enforce it. Going through the defensible space side of it, trees, and then outbuildings were the other two that I want to talk about real quick. Trees.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the branches got to be more than 10 feet from touching the house. So the base can be, and if they're over the house, the base can be there, and then the branches can come out 10 feet over the house. So you just got to look for that. And then outbuildings, anything that's more than 120 square feet can't be in Zone Zero. Like little sheds and smaller sheds can, but again, they have to be non-ignition. So metal.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I just advise everybody take a deep dive into it. That's the first zone. From Zone Zero, you have Zone 1 and then Zone 2. Zone 1 is 5 feet to 30 feet. And then Zone 2 is above 30 feet.
Got it. So do you think, okay, so how does this now apply to, let's say, new construction? Right? Because new constructions, like we're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Are they going to be held to a higher standard because they're starting from scratch versus an existing home?
Yeah, so that would be more in the home hardening. So let's go into that. That's a great segue into the next side of it. So 3074 is for everybody, right? It's defensible space, it's landscape. You can do it for low cost. Yeah. You can hire local teenagers, handymen for elderly. Right. You can do it. Where it starts getting a little pricey could be is hardening your home. So let's talk about that. That's building what used to be called building code 7A, but again, the state likes to 7A. I was online, we're dialoguing with a fire chief. He said 7A is gone. I said, actually 7A is not gone. All the bullet points are there, but now it's under the California Wildland Urban Interface Code, which is C, some section.
Right. There. Let's make it more complicated.
To make it more complicated, but it's pretty simple actually. 7A says you have to have a defensible structure. And so let's do the anatomy of a structure of a house, right? So the first thing is your vents. Remember, 90% of homes burn down because of embers. Embers will collect. Let me go back to Zone Zero, the defensible space. Why that has to be non-combustible. Embers will obviously cluster up around the house. They'll get on the mulch. You have a wooden fence that's older, that's slatted and older, and have some pieces coming off next to a little shrub. That little shrub, embers collect in there, the dead leaves. You're envisioning the scenario, right? It goes up.
Yeah.
Now it hits that fence that's attached to it, that's next to the window. And that defensible space has created a vulnerability for that window. An ember, which can travel 2 to 3 miles in the air, comes down. That window is now heated up. Ember, let's say that window's single pane. Out of compliance, but let's talk about compliance on hardening. It hits that single pane window. That whole fire in that fence heat that thing up to 600 degrees. Single pane will blow out 350 to 400. Sure. Ember comes in, that's gone. Your house is gone. You've evacuated at this point. So you're done. You're toast. It's toast. So they work hand in hand very much. So the main parts, these embers coming in, they're destroyed from the outside through Zone Zero, or a big tree that's in your Zone Zero or Zone 1 on fire, touching your house, especially Italian cypress or eucalyptus or something. And the structure itself, just start at the top, right? You got your gable vents, you've got anything up in the attics, right? So right there, you have to make sure you're addressing your vents, and then you need down the non-corrosive material, especially towards the beach, 1/16 inch. So you go in there, people think that they have to replace these vents, and we'll go back and we'll do a low-cost retrofit. We'll just take a steel gate at 1/16 inch and non-corrosive, and we will cut it out, and we will just affix it over that. So please, anybody listen, and that if you want to DIY this, go on Amazon. You can order the materials. You have to be able to get up in an attic and crawl through it, or get a handyman or get someone local, and just make sure that any vulnerabilities and any little holes around there, which you'll see, like all kinds of stuff come in, and you're just closing those vents off one at a time. The little soffit vents, the 2 inches, sometimes 1 3/4.
Oh, yeah.
There's usually 30, 40, 100 in some homes around the tops.
Mm-hmm.
You can just go to, I used to have a box, I think it's myvents.com, low cost. I can send links to this stuff, but you can also just go on Amazon, man. You just go on Amazon and you get these little round, you pop them in. Sometimes you have to drill them out. You pop them in. They're like $3, right? Yeah. You pop them in and you're just covering those. You're covering all the vents. You're giving no ways for these embers to get in. So that's really important. The basics, Class A roofing, Class A cladding. We won't take a job, and we'll talk about what we do if you want. Like we put these wildfire defense systems on, and there's a cost to it and everything. But when we go and we analyze, if they don't have Class A roofing cladding, we're not touching it. We put your money in that because you're never going to get insured if you don't have that. I go to Del Mar. I live right by Del Mar. It's mind-boggling to me. There's still a lot of wood shingles on the side of these like big complexes. And I'm like, wow, okay, all right. Like,
no, condo I own had it, and I was like, wow. Like we weren't in a high fire zone or anything, but I was just like, why hasn't the HOA taken them off? Like you take it off, do drywall repair. It's expensive because it's such a big complex, but still, this just feels odd.
It's a huge risk. All we're doing is mitigating risk, right? Through defensible space and hardening from the embers coming in. Tile roofs are Class A. Most roofs are Class A, right? But it's a cladding. Stucco's, it would take a lot to get stucco on fire, right? The vulnerabilities are not in the cladding and the roof as long as they're Class A, so you're good there. Then you come in, another huge one is the windows, right? So these codes, to your point, if you have an older home and you're putting money in, I forget what the percentage is. I think it's 25%. I could be wrong, but percent of value in that you are doing a rebuild or you're retroing it and you're updating it, then you have to abide by this code. Okay.
Got it.
Or if it's a new home, obviously a new home is going to have all of it.
Yeah, so typically, I think I know what you're referring to. So typically, because what happened was in the past, people would tear down homes and leave one wall up.
Yeah.
So that way they don't have to go by the new construction codes. The city, at least for LA, caught on to that.
Yeah.
So as long as you're doing an addition of about, I think, 50% of the original house size, you then had to abide by new construction codes.
I forget what that percentage is. Same thing. Yep.
Yeah. Same concept. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and it's perfect. It
does make sense.
Yeah, I'm in full support of it. 100% support. If you're not, sorry, you're an idiot. You're just dumb. I can't do it. You can't fix stupid. It can't fix you. Just go. You're gonna be a negative contributor to society is what you're gonna do. But that's how you want to run your life. Fine. So you got to address all this stuff. The windows are, going back to that, very important. Single pane, like I said, 350 to 400. Double pane, which is the code, tempered. You can withstand up to about 700 degrees at that point.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. So you're like, for me, I was like, because I'm in my home office right now, there's a home over there and there's a fence and there's a window right here. And it's my reference. I'm like, I'm good. Obviously we have Ember Pro, so I'm really good. But if we hadn't, I know that is far enough away where my window's not going to go out and it's double pane and it's tempered. So I'm good. Always have a risk though with bigger embers coming. We've embers the size of fists coming through the air, flying. So they'll knock some stuff out. Your flashing is another really important point, making sure all the flashing is covered around the house. And there's a number of things on that, but I just invite everybody to go and look through it. Again, please, DIY the retrofitting. You can do these vents. You can do it for low cost. There is another piece to it, the fencing that I was mentioning earlier, touching that house. That's going to have to be non-ignition, and that's going to be a little bit. Typically, people cannot replace a gate. Typically, people cannot. You could spend a few $1,000s on that one alone. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But highly important, really highly important. So 7A, CWEC codes are the hardening of the home. I'm trying to think if there's any major things. That's it. Again, top down, you look at, okay, my Class A across, yep. Are my vents covered? What's it looking like for my windows? And most people do have the double pane tempered. If not, start budgeting. That will be. And again, man, I'll go back to the codes are code. They're what you got a couple people per city enforcing it. They're not gonna, unless you have a horrible neighbor like we talked about, that idiot neighbor that
it happens.
Yeah, everyone's got someone in the neighborhood. They might be getting some calls, but really, dude, it's the insurance company. I can't stress it enough. You're just not going to get insured. There's just not.
It is what it is. Yeah. And it makes sense, right? That's the city inspection is, they're only going to look at certain things. They're also too busy. So they're only going to come in, inspect what they came to inspect, and then leave. They're not going to call out anything
That's it.
else.
That's why I say it's kind of Mickey Mouse. It's I don't mean to talk negatively, but I've asked the city inspectors in front of groups of people. So are you looking at zone 0? They're like, no, we only go on zone 3 or zone 2. I'm sorry. Zone 2 is past 30 feet. It's really for the firemen to be able to maneuver through. So they're not even checking zone 0 right now in San Diego. I was mind blown, dude. I was just like, okay, I'm not going to talk badly. I was really surprised. Hey, look, it is up to us. People can make it in life. People make excuses about all kinds of stuff. It is up to you. You own the home. Your job is to harden it and create defensible space if you want to keep it. If not, you're more susceptible. It's that simple. And you're probably not going to get insurance. And you might get one of those fines and eventually get a misdemeanor. There's a misdemeanor in there after the 3rd violation. Right? There's a misdemeanor. So you might get a misdemeanor. And then, honestly, if your neighbors' homes go down and because of you, there could be a lawsuit. There could be a negligence case in there. I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, we'll see. And then I think part of the problem, and it's I've talked to people, I was like, you do know there's quote unquote middle class people that live in Malibu. There was middle class people that lived in Palisades. And they're like, what are you talking about? Only the wealthy live there. I'm like, no. At some point, like, Malibu was just there. Palisades was just there. There's like multi-generational people. They don't have the kind of money that people think. They're equity rich. They're millionaires on paper because they have a $2 or $3 million asset that they own. So I think that's going to be also some of the challenges is like the city's going to be like, hey, you need to do this work. They're going to be like, I can't afford it because I legitimately was a teacher or I was a janitor and I inherited my parents' home. That kind of stuff's going to happen.
This is one that kills me because it's so expensive to live in California. I've got late teens, a 20-year-old. I'm like, how are these kids going to do it? I watch this younger generation. But here's what's happening is, so people they're stretching a little bit. Oh, I'll buy the house for 1.5. Oh gosh, it's more than I can. It's okay. But I love this house and the wife and the kids. We love it. And the dog loves it. Everyone loves this house. And they're like, all right, let's get in an escrow. Let's get under contract. And you do. And they're like, okay, and I get my insurance quote. It was $15,000, $12,000, $5,000, $6,000. Now it's $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. And people are coming back on, there's no way I can't afford this. This does not make sense. This is 2%. So you just play with the numbers, but it's 2% of what the value.
Yeah.
I can't do that. That doesn't make any sense to annualize a premium to pay so much. And, that is a real problem in the working class. It is a true problem.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at how many wealthy people are backing out of escrow. I heard of 2 this week with friends of mine. They lost a lot of commissions. They lost a lot of commissions. But a lot of wealthy are smart because they know how to treat their money. And they're like, why would I go in and pay $250,000 a year for this $10 million TIV? I'm not going to do it. I'm backing out. Doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make any sense. Over 10 years, you're going to pay $2.5 million, whereas you really probably should have budgeted, $300,000 over that period, $400,000? Like, I don't.
Which ultimately will just be reflective in the price. So it's look, if the insurance is here, it used to be here, now I'm just going to lower the price to compensate for the difference, right? Or buyers going to be like, well, my debt to income ratio, it factors in insurance. So if that's higher, the price has to be lowered to make sure I can still.
And now you're great at segueing without realizing it. So it's a great segue, Rick, because
it's a talent.
It's uncanny. So this is okay. So I'm going to shamelessly promote Ember Pro. Okay. What we do is we'll go in, we'll assess a home. We give a 30-page report that will go to underwriters for a large asset, and they'll look at. We've done TIVs of $40 million total insurable value. TIV, total insurable value. Those are some big homes. Underwriters are looking at it. Again, average Joe guy right here. I've got a 3,000 square foot house here. And my TIV's not nearly that much, but I have to be assessed like anybody else. It doesn't matter the value. But for the high value homes, the underwriters will look at it. For us, and we're pushing for underwriters to look at every home. We're working hard with the major admitted underwriters in the non-admitted E&S market. We're pushing hard for them to recognize that what we do is really the kind of mitigation that's going to save these homes, because we're going to go and we're going to assess everything we talked about, AB 3074 and 7A, hardening and defensible space. We'll give a report. If the customer wants an in-depth report, we can go ahead and write one up. We'll charge them a little bit for it, whatever they want to do with it. Most of the time, we just do it as part of our assessment. So we go in there, and then we come in. Like, I was at a house yesterday in Del Mar. She did such an amazing job on her yard. She said, maybe I'll think about a spray service. I'll get into our services next. She said, maybe I'll think about a spray service, but what we're going to do is we're going to help her retrofit some vents. That's it. I said, you can replace these. A couple of Hagens, they're like a couple $1,000s. You want to replace these for $2,500, or do you want us to retrofit your screening for a fraction of that? She's like, well, it's the same effect, so I think I'm going to take the 1/10 option. I'm like, that's what I would do. Or you can make it a huge construction project and pay us $5,000. But no, we want to save money. We want to work with as many people as possible to educate them and help harden their homes and help save them. So we go in and we assess. They have, if they want to do more than defensible space and hardening, we have two options. We can put on a permanent wildfire defense system, and I'll explain that real quick. We have 3 differentiators. You look at us, and there are some competitors. For the sake of being a smart businessman, I'm not going to name them, but do your research. We have competitors, and this is our differentiators.
Yeah.
Number 1, we have no roof penetrations. I was an executive in solar, a very large solar company, and the poop end of the stick is always the claims on having roof penetrations and liability and claims. Water leakage. No one wants to deal with water. And we don't want to put our systems on or around solar panels. No roof penetrations. We do not put our system on top of the roof and penetrate in. 2, we're off grid. Palisades, and we had our systems well before the Palisades, but this Palisades really highlighted the fact that if you were going to rely on municipalities, you're making mistakes. They didn't have water.
Right.
Of course, they're shutting off power. Power goes off. Gas went off. Gas generators went off. Then some people, their systems didn't turn on, not ours, because we don't depend on any of that. Some other competitors had gas generators that backed up after power went out. Of course, power goes out. Backup generator never kicked on. System never turned on. 2 houses were lost. System never even turned on. Whatever construction person, that was their redundancy. Stupid. It was dumb. You can't rely on utilities. We don't tie into water. It's a standalone system. Okay, so completely off grid. So we don't do roof penetrations. We are off grid. And I mentioned earlier, I don't know if we were talking before or during this, I have an environmental science background, right? When we came into this, I told my partner, we're not going to use any toxic chemicals. Non-toxicity, no heavy metals. Compared to Phos-Chek, the red stuff that they drop out, that they dump how many tons up there? Phos, PHOS, is phosphates, phosphorus, fertilizers. That is washed out into the ocean. Right now in our Pacific Ocean, there are algae plumes from Phos-Chek being washed out there. When you create an algae plume, you start choking out vital feeders. Those vital feeders come in, and then the bigger fish, and then you get this web, and it just creates complete environmental degradation in the oceans. It's horrible. So none of that crap, none of it. It's all, we have 3 options. One of them is actually EPA certified. So that was it. That's our 3 differentiators. We're not going to hurt the environment. We're not going to penetrate roofs, and we're going to be off grid. You can turn these things on no matter where you're at, no matter what the conditions are. So what it looks like is, imagine a receptacle. It's a tank about 275 gallons full of this retardant. The retardant looks like and behaves like water. Okay. There's no mixing. It just sits in a tank, usually off to the side of the house by pool equipment, by the air conditioning unit, something. It's very ornamental. We cover it up. If you go to our website, you can see how they're covered with fake rocks, and they look nice. HOAs, like we just got done with an install this week. What is today? This is Wednesday? Yeah, last Friday we got done with an install in Santa Luz for down here in San Diego, very high-end community. We had to powder coat everything. It all has to be dialed in exactly. Perfect. We'll do all that. It looks aesthetically, it looks great. That goes into a pumping system. You go to our website, you'll see the app where you just go on your phone. You could be vacationing in Aruba, wherever, and you hear there's a fire, or you're contracted with us for us to turn on your system remotely. But you're on watch duty. Everyone should have watch duty. You're on watch duty. Holy crap, there's a fire. How close is it? 5 miles. Okay, let's watch it. 4 miles. Ooh, 3 miles. Ooh, 2 miles. Okay, let's turn this on. Click it.
Yeah.
Now everything, the pumps are going, starts pulling all that retardant out. Where does that go? Okay. If we do a house mount, it's just brass up to the eaves. Remember, it doesn't go on the roof. It just goes out the eaves of the home, and it's been designed to spray it in zone 0. Now we're educating one, right? Zone 0, which is 5 feet,
Right.
and zone 1, which is 30 feet. And we spray it in zone 0 and zone 1, wherever there's hazards. If you have a back, and some of these homes in the ranch are beautiful, they've got, they're beautiful acreage, but in the back, there's nothing but concrete and a pool. Great. We don't do anything with that. Obviously, nothing's needed. We're just spraying when there's hazards. We have a hybrid that we put on where half of it's on the house and the other one's trenched. The one we were at yesterday, that beautiful home, that's all, it was designed to trench around. The one we finished last Friday is a trench around. We don't need to hit the house, Rick. Remember we said earlier, if you have Class A, you don't need to spray a retardant on your home. That should be the most defensible thing, that it's not going to burn out as long as the vegetation, which everyone loves to have in their yard, is being hit by this. So this is a fire inhibiting agent, if you will, or a fire retardant chemical, people will call it. And it goes out there, it sprays it, it lays it down, and then as it dries, it's actually the most effective when dry. And it creates a barrier of inhibiting the fire through choking out oxygen and whatever the chemical does. There's different types of products. There's different chemicals doing different things, but it's just disallowing everything it's inhibiting that spread of fuel or the fire on the fuel. It's covering the fuel. We tell everybody all the time, show us a better way to help people. Like someone, if it's a giant blanket to throw over a house, like people, we talk the drones, drones come and say, you're going to fly a drone with gallons and gallons in 60-mile-per-hour winds. Yeah. That doesn't work. Like someone show me, I've seen these little balls that blow up. You like throw them. Have you seen those? Like and they like blow up. They blow up fire retardant. I'm like, okay. So we've just taken age-old technology, repurposed it, and that's how that. And then going over the insurance companies, that's where our big influence has been, as these underwriters, and they're going, oh, okay. And again, I point to our blog section. How effective are they? 60 out of 62 homes in Palisades were defended. There's Australia's been using these for a long time. I wrote an article on it. It's a blog out there. They're highly effective, 97, 98% effective. It's a great, and look, the worst thing about it is you got to pay for it. And we can do in-house financing. We have some finance options because we just want to keep homes from burning down.
Because again, not everyone can afford it.
Hey, you tell me to write a $50,000 check right now. I'm like, whoa, hold on. Hey, and they will range from $30,000 to $250,000. Obviously, the more you have to cover, the more expensive. Yeah. People want, can I get an ROI with my insurance? We're getting close. What we're telling people is you're going to get insurance. You're going to get insurance. I can't say in 2 or 3 years, I'd be willing to bet everything that you're going to get a discount. But today, right now, yes, it's happening in certain situations, but it will be more common later. And that's what we brought to market, and that's how we're helping. That's what Ember Pro does. And the caveat being, let's just say you're in a leasing situation. This isn't a permanent home. You're a real estate professional. You're listing a house, and I'll tell you about the scheme we have going down here, and it's in a very good way. You're not going to tell your seller to put one of these on. You might say something like, "This is this little scheme we came up with," because the realtors are tired of losing deals. They're tired of things coming out of escrow. They're like, "Hey, look, let's not reduce the price on this home. Let's start with that. Do not reduce the price. Negotiating the price of this system, and then get a pre-quote, which we'll do. We're concierge. I'll work with Bob Feldman or the other MGAs, and we'll get quotes out there. We'll get a soft quote, an indicative quote with a system, what it would be, and without a system. And then people can see, oh, wow, I really want the system because it's the ultimate defense. I get a return on investment and I get insurance. Okay, that makes sense to spend that money. Right? If it's just for peace of mind, absolutely, people put them on for just peace of mind. But I, as a smart business owner, at least somewhat intelligent business owner, I'm trying to find angles where people can justify it. I want it justified. I want a deal every time. I want a deal.
Yeah. And the reality is, if the seller wants a home sold, there could be also a negotiation of a credit.
And that's what they're doing. You said it the right way. I didn't say it the right way. You said it the right way. There's a credit on it for that.
Yeah, I've done that many times where people are like, I had one, this was years ago, on a house, It was investment property, house with ADU, and the agent was like, "We would have offered your price, but really the rents are too low." I'm like, "By how much?" "Oh, probably $200." "Okay, I can get the seller to credit you the difference for 2 years. That's $2,400." Totally took the wind out of his sails. I'm like, "You're trying to negotiate tens of thousands of dollars because of $200 a month? I'll credit you $4,800.
I might even reduce my commission on this one. I'll pay right now."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, oh man, he was not having it. He was like,
"Did he buy it?
Come on."
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Nice.
They bought it. They bought it. They paid over asking too.
Beautiful.
So it worked out. Okay, so Jim, I really appreciate you coming on. How can people get hold of you?
858-939-9345. I don't know my LA number. Our website's got it all. emberprousa.com. Check out our videos on YouTube. Yeah. We're doing more and more videos. Visuals are great. Ember Pro, at Ember Pro. Yeah. No, that's Instagram, at Ember Pro USA. And then YouTube, Ember Pro USA. There's an Ember Pro bag of all things. It's a handbag. Just weird. It's like fire resistant bag. I don't know. Yeah. But there is another Ember Pro that's in the bag industry. Ember Pro USA. If you can't find us under Ember Pro USA. Yeah. And then the last thing I'd say about us is, we have tenets of how we operate our core values, and one of them is white glove service. We love, we've built things to where people see value, they get it, and we want to take care of people in the best way possible. So, yeah, hit us up, man. We'd love to talk with anybody about how to help them and navigate through this crazy next couple of years. But it's going to be, when these moratoriums are over in January from the insurance, we're looking at a tough landscape. The unfair plan, which we didn't even get to, you probably talk about that with Feldman and other people. Is it still going to be around? Is it going to be funded?
I've heard off the record that they actually don't have enough money.
I've heard so many things.
California Fair Plan. That's what I've heard. I don't know. We'll see ultimately what happens, but because it's ran by the state, but it was actually
sued by the state. It was actually sued by the state, which is the wildest thing, because they weren't for you guys up there, they weren't paying smoke claims. So the state sued them and won, and now they pay. So it's not run by the state, but it's run by the state, but it's like the last. And the state sues you guys. Situation. You're just whacked, man. You know? Hey, can I give one?
Welcome to California.
If the weather wasn't so great. No, I want to give one pro tip. I know too. I didn't know this. Maybe you knew this, but
okay.
So homes are in a trust that the insured is in the person's name. Make sure that trust is added as additional insured. They've been denied claims. Did you know that one?
Yeah, everything has to be in a trust. Even your bank accounts, everything. If it's not, you could be potentially SOL.
Yeah, because I just heard it was someone doing I don't know, into an event, and they were talking. I was like, whoa, wait a second. They denied a claim because you had the insurance in the name, but the home was owned by a trust.
BS.
And they denied it.
Such BS.
I know, but I'm like, I got to tell people about that. That's crazy. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Jim, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone for listening or watching, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Take care. Happy Thanksgiving.
Want to keep unlocking the secrets to building real wealth in Los Angeles? Stick around for the next episode. Tap the video on screen to keep watching.